Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the rich legends and culture of this iconic region. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on the latest desert adventures. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. The Texas Gulf Coast, 1821. A brass rod sinks into muddy marsh soil, its top barely visible above the surface. Three men work quickly under darkness, burying a fortune in Spanish gold and silver. The leader, a notorious pirate, takes careful measurements from two distant tree groves, recording these coordinates in his journal before turning to his companions. 3 years. Wait 3 years before returning. With that, Jean Lafitte, the Gulf's most infamous buccaneer, disappears into the night, leaving behind a treasure that remains undiscovered to this day. Welcome to Southwest Desert. I'm your host, Alan, and today we're exploring the extraordinary story of Jean Lafitte's lost treasure, a tale of piracy, desperate escapes, accidental discoveries, and a fortune that continues to captivate treasure hunters 2 centuries later. Jean Lafitte wasn't just any pirate. He was the preeminent figure among Gulf of Mexico buccaneers in the early 1800s, dashing, intelligent, and ruthlessly effective. While historians debate which tales about Lafitte are fact versus fiction, substantial evidence supports his success in capturing Spanish vessels and accumulating significant wealth. By 1819, Lafitte had established a thriving operation in Louisiana, but increasing pressure from the U.S. Navy forced him to seek new territory. He set his sights on Galveston Island, Texas, an ideal location with a natural harbor and proximity to Spanish shipping lanes. Upon arriving at Galveston, Lafitte discovered a rival pirate band already established there. Rather than seeking another location, he eliminated the competition through swift military action, then repurposed an abandoned Spanish fortress about half a mile west of where the Galveston Yacht Basin stands today. From this new base, Lafitte's business flourished. His crews specialized in targeting Spanish vessels carrying New World gold and silver. Using shallow draft vessels that could navigate waters where larger naval ships couldn't follow, Lafitte conducted raid after successful raid, amassing a substantial fortune. But Lafitte made a fatal miscalculation. Initially avoiding American ships to prevent U.S. government intervention, he gradually began targeting vessels flying the American flag. By 1821, reports of these attacks reached Washington, prompting a decisive response. The USS Enterprise, under Captain Kearny's command, arrived at Galveston with clear orders: end Lafitte's piracy. After days of tense negotiations, Kearny delivered an ultimatum. Lafitte had 30 days to evacuate the island or face military action. The guns of the Enterprise, trained on Lafitte's fortress, left no doubt about American resolve. Just 4 days before this deadline, disaster struck. One of Lafitte's vessels, the Pride, ran aground near the mouth of the Lavaca River. The ship's planks fractured, and it began to sink, along with a fortune in Spanish treasure. Facing both the sinking ship and the American deadline, Lafitte organized an emergency salvage operation. He selected only his most trusted associates to handle the treasure: a chest filled with gold coins from various countries and eras, valuable jewelry, and 2 canvas sacks containing Spanish silver bars. Under cover of darkness, Lafitte and his men transported this fortune several hundred yards across treacherous salt marsh. The location was chosen with care. Soil composition, visibility, and accessibility for future recovery all factored into the decision. Most critically, Lafitte created a precise marking system. He took compass readings from the burial site to two prominent tree groves known locally as mottes, the Kentucky mott and the Malden mott. These landmarks would serve as reference points for future recovery. All details were meticulously recorded in his journal. As a final marker, Lafitte drove a brass rod deep into the ground at the burial site, leaving only about 8 inches visible above the surface. With the Navy's deadline approaching, Lafitte gave specific instructions to his trusted companions. They were to return to New Orleans, adopt honest lives, and wait 3 years before returning for the treasure. Lafitte himself planned to head north of Red River, though he kept his exact destination secret. And so, the most notorious pirate of the Gulf sailed away from Galveston Island, leaving behind a fortune that would spawn generations of treasure hunters. The first attempts to recover the treasure were doomed from the start. One of Lafitte's companions returned to New Orleans as instructed, but fell ill with malaria. On his deathbed, he shared the treasure information with a friend who mounted several expeditions. Despite having partial knowledge of the location, each attempt failed. The second companion settled permanently in New Orleans, starting a family and legitimate career. In his final years, he passed the treasure knowledge to his sons. They organized their own expedition but were equally unsuccessful. Changes in the marsh landscape, inaccuracies in the directions, and the challenging environment all contributed to their failure. Throughout the following decades, the legend of Lafitte's treasure persisted, drawing people to the Texas Gulf Coast. In one remarkable incident, a rancher named Hill, who had established property near the Lavaca River, came tantalizingly close to the treasure. One of Hill's hired hands was supervising livestock in the marsh when he spotted a metal rod protruding from the soil. Needing to secure his horse, he used the rod as a hitching post. When his horse moved, it loosened the rod. Curious, the worker pulled it free and brought it back to show his employer. Hill, familiar with the Lafitte legend, immediately recognized the significance of the brass rod. He questioned his employee about the exact location and organized a search expedition for the next day. Despite the hired hand's guidance and a full day of methodical searching, they couldn't relocate the exact spot. The uniformity of the marsh landscape and the absence of the critical marker meant Hill's team was searching blindly. Lafitte's carefully placed marker, perhaps the key to finding his buried fortune, had been unwittingly removed. Around 1870, a turkey hunter crawling through tall grass near the Lavaca River mouth had his own brush with the lost treasure. His knee struck something hard partially buried in the soil. The object looked like a brick, and the hunter took it home for examination. That evening, he and his brother discovered it was actually a bar of pure silver. Recognizing the potential connection to the Lafitte legend, they returned the next day but failed to relocate the site despite searching for miles. What makes this story particularly intriguing is that the hunters reported seeing both the Kentucky mata and Malden mott in the distance, the very landmarks Lafitte had used in his marking system. Had they understood the significance of these features, they might have triangulated the position and discovered the entire cache. Perhaps the most bizarre chapter in this saga is the tale of Crazy Ben, an eccentric figure who appeared in Galveston during the 1880s. Ben lived in a shack near the Lavaca River mouth and claimed to have been a cabin boy for Lafitte. According to his story, he had secretly witnessed the treasure burial as a 10-year-old. After Lafitte's departure, Ben remained in the area, supporting himself through fishing and odd jobs. What drew attention was his habit of paying for drinks at waterfront bars with Spanish gold coins, precisely the type Lafitte was known to have captured. In his frequent drunken states, Ben boasted that he would periodically visit the burial site, take a handful of coins, and rebury the rest for later. Despite having access to substantial wealth, he maintained a modest lifestyle, attracting both curiosity and suspicion. Local residents often attempted to follow Ben, hoping he would lead them to the treasure. He developed elaborate methods to detect and evade such surveillance, but Ben's luck eventually ran out. After a night of heavy drinking at a local tavern, he was followed by two unidentified figures. The next morning, Ben's body was discovered on the shore near his home, his throat slashed. Had Ben truly discovered Lafitte's treasure? And did this knowledge cost him his life? The mystery deepened with his death. A notable expedition in the 1920s was led by treasure hunters from Oklahoma, who claimed to possess original notes from Lafitte's journal. They successfully located both mottes, the key landmarks in Lafitte's marking system, but still failed to find the treasure itself. If found today, the value of Lafitte's treasure would be staggering. Beyond the inherent worth of the gold and silver, the historical coins would have immense numismatic value. Museum curators and private collectors would likely enter bidding wars for artifacts from such a legendary cache. What makes Lafitte's treasure particularly compelling is its plausibility. Unlike many treasure legends built entirely on folklore, this story contains numerous elements supported by historical record. Jean Lafitte was indeed a successful pirate who operated in the Gulf. He was forced from Galveston by the U.S. Navy in 1821. Multiple independent accounts mention the brass marker, the silver bar discovery, and the mysterious Crazy Ben with his Spanish coins. Imagine millions in gold and silver coins glimmering in a crystal-clear Texas spring, a fortune untouched for over 2 centuries, protected by seemingly bottomless depths. This is the legend of the lost bottomless pit treasure, where in 1803, a desperate captain sacrificed a king's ransom rather than surrender it to bandits. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where today we explore one of the most compelling lost treasure stories in American history. Northeast of the Rio Grande in Dimmitt County lies the Grand Rock Waterhole, hidden among rugged hills northwest of Carrizo Springs. This marvel presented travelers with an oval-shaped body of exceptionally clear water never successfully plumbed to its bottom. The spring served as a natural resting place for countless travelers. Indigenous tribes, Mexican traders, and Anglo settlers recognized its strategic importance en routes through arid South Texas. The flat ground surrounding the spring provided ideal camping conditions, while the mysterious waters offered reliable refreshment in an otherwise harsh landscape. Archaeological evidence spanning generations bears witness to these visitors. What makes this spring truly special isn't just its mysterious depths, it's the fortune rumored to lie beneath. According to legend, resting at the bottom are 30 mule loads of treasure, gold coins, silver pieces, and bullion worth several million in early 19th century terms. Today, the value would be astronomical. This was a carefully planned capital transfer from Mexico City to San Antonio in 1803, when Texas remained Mexican territory. San Antonio was emerging as a commercial hub, with growing wealth among Spanish and Mexican elites creating demand for banking and business development. This shipment represented a significant investment in northern settlements, intended to stimulate economic growth in the frontier regions. In early summer 1803, a special mission departed Mexico City with 30 mules carrying precious cargo. The Mexican government assigned 50 well-armed soldiers as escort, equipped with period muskets and sabers. Multiple civilian drivers skilled in handling pack animals joined the expedition, along with guides familiar with the challenging northern territories. Command fell to Captain Palacio Flores, an ambitious officer with powerful family connections, including ties to General Santa Anna. For Flores, successful delivery meant significant career advancement. The expedition initially progressed smoothly through central Mexico, following established roads through the eastern highlands and making regular stops in significant cities. Everything changed when they crossed the Rio Grande 50 miles upstream from Laredo. Entering South Texas meant difficult terrain, sparse population, and increased danger. Shortly after crossing, mysterious riders began observing the pack train from a distance. Initially just a few observers, their numbers grew to approximately 30 as they encroached closer, suggesting coordinated surveillance rather than simple curiosity. Captain Flores implemented heightened security during their first night after crossing. Guards were doubled, the treasure arranged defensively, and all soldiers maintained vigilant watch as they continued their journey. Following Pina Creek as a natural guide, the expedition reached Grand Rock Waterhole on the second day after crossing. Flores established camp with strategic considerations. Treasure packs were stockpiled centrally near the spring for protection, while soldier quarters and animal areas were arranged to optimize defense while providing necessary rest. After an uneventful first night at the spring, Flores made a catastrophic error in judgment. Perhaps growing overconfident, he reduced security measures. Extra sentries were no longer posted, guard rotation returned to normal protocols, and general vigilance relaxed. His reasoning was flawed. He believed the threat had disappeared and overestimated his military escort's deterrent effect. Complacency replaced caution with deadly consequences. The bandit attack came during breakfast preparation. Using multiple attack vectors from adjacent ravines, the raiders exploited the element of surprise to devastating effect. The first wave caused immediate casualties among unprepared soldiers, creating confusion throughout the camp. Flores responded rapidly to the initial attack. Assessing the chaotic situation, he recognized the serious threat and implemented immediate countermeasures. He organized musketeers into defensive formation, established a skirmish line, and prepared for combat. But facing overwhelming odds, Flores made a decision that would secure this story's place in history. Recognizing possible defeat and determined to deny the bandits their prize, he issued an emergency order: throw all treasure packs into the bottomless spring. This preservation strategy was implemented immediately. Even as battle raged around them, soldiers and drivers began throwing the weighted packs into the water. Pack after pack disappeared beneath the crystal surface until all 30 mule loads were submerged. The strategic thinking revealed Flores's dedication to his mission. Preventing bandits from seizing the treasure became his primary goal, even above survival. He assumed recovery would be possible later with reinforcements, a prioritization both heroic and tragic. With the treasure secured in the depths of the spring, Flores joined the direct combat, personally wielding his saber in front line, fighting and leading by example in their desperate situation. The final bandit charge employed overwhelming force. Attacking from multiple directions, they completely collapsed the Mexican position. Captain Flores fell in combat, removing command structure and triggering complete breakdown of resistance. Panic ensued as survivors fled in all directions. The victorious bandits methodically hunted escapees, resulting in high casualties. In the captured camp, bandits celebrated their success. But the true prize, the fortune in gold and silver, remained hidden beneath the spring waters, its secret kept by the dead. All the dead except one. Alejandro Lajero, an elderly driver with previous wilderness experience, demonstrated remarkable quick thinking during the crisis. Finding concealment in nearby trees, he remained motionless throughout the massacre and subsequent bandit celebration. Patiently waiting until nightfall, he began his escape under cover of darkness. What followed was an arduous journey to San Antonio. Traveling on foot through hostile territory, Lajero endured hunger, thirst, and exhaustion, driven by the importance of his eyewitness testimony. Upon reaching San Antonio nearly starved, authorities assessed the credibility of his account, attempted verification, and documented his testimony for official records. His detailed report included a description of the attack, information about the treasure's disposition in the spring, and crucial location details that would later prove valuable. Military authorities, civilian officials, and financial stakeholders deliberated regarding recovery. Several factors weighed against immediate action: fear of continued bandit strength, limited military resources available, and uncertain prospects given the mysterious bottomless spring. The decision emerged for a delayed response, a temporary postponement with intention to reassess later. This lack of firm commitment would prove fatal to retrieval chances. Over time, urgency diminished as competing priorities emerged. Changes in personnel and leadership led to fading institutional memory. The historical event gradually transitioned into local legend, transmitted orally with inevitable embellishment, before being incorporated into regional folklore. Nearly 90 years later, a San Antonio newspaper reporter made a remarkable discovery through archival research. Uncovering documents that provided verification of the original event, the journalist established connections to the 1803 tragedy. Research traced the treasure's rightful ownership, examining banking entities involved and clarifying government interests in the original shipment. Genealogical investigation tracked descendants of original stakeholders and verified legitimate heirs. This culminated in a stakeholder coalition with legal rights to recovery. Their expedition included descendants with legal claims and support personnel equipped with the best technology available at the time. Navigation posed significant challenges, with the landscape changed considerably after 90 years. Eventually, they confirmed the correct location by matching geographical features to descriptions. The discovery of human remains, likely bones from the 1803 massacre, provided confirmation. Multiple attempts to reach the bottom followed. Probing with poles proved unsuccessful. Swimming exploration reached impressive depths, but failed to locate the treasure. In a final effort, they engineered a weighted line system, assembling hundreds of feet of rope for measurement. The careful lowering process yielded astonishing results. The line continued descending without reaching bottom despite its extensive length. The treasure remained safe in its watery vault, protected by the mysterious depths of the Grand Rock waterhole. Today, conflicting accounts surround the spring's condition. Some claim natural changes have caused it to dry up completely. Environmental theories propose flooding events causing silting, creek changes affecting the waterhole, or possible human intervention altering the watercourse. Some treasure hunters believe modern technology will eventually reveal what lies at the bottom. Others suggest the spring might connect to subterranean river systems, potentially dispersing the treasure through hidden waterways. If you would like to contribute to my channel, join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for the image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where history meets mystery in the American Southwest. I'm your host, Alan. Imagine this. Somewhere in the vast North Texas prairie, beneath the wild grasses that bend with the wind, lies a fortune in gold nuggets. Not gold from the California mines or the Colorado strikes, but gold that was discovered by chance, then lost through desperation. Gold that remains hidden to this day, scattered across Clay County in small caches marked only by twisted grass that disappeared over a century ago. Gold discovered by a man who lived with a terrible secret, his own cowardice in the face of death. This is the story of the lost survivor gold, perhaps the most haunting tale of treasure, tragedy, and moral failing in Texas frontier history. The year was 1858. The California Trail stretched across the continent like an artery, pumping dreamers, adventurers, and families seeking new beginnings toward the promised lands of the West. The section cutting through North Texas was particularly treacherous. Miles of open prairie under an unforgiving sun, with waterholes few and far between. The rutted tracks connected these precious water sources, guiding travelers across seemingly endless grasslands toward California's fertile valleys and gold-rich mountains. For most travelers, the journey was difficult but manageable with proper preparation. They formed wagon trains for protection and assistance, sharing the burdens of the trail. Some found success, establishing new homesteads or striking it rich. Others succumbed to illness, starvation, or the harsh elements. And some met violent ends at the hands of those who saw these interlopers as trespassers on their ancestral lands. One spring morning, a wagon train of 17 wagons made its way across North Texas. They had already traveled hundreds of miles, overcoming numerous challenges. The group was cohesive under capable leadership, maintaining an adequate pace despite the challenging terrain. They had successfully navigated the long stretches between water sources and endured the psychological strain of monotonous prairie travel. But what they couldn't know was that from a northern rise, they were being watched. The Comanche war party appeared suddenly, taking strategic position on the elevated ground. They were prepared for battle, adorned with war paint, weapons ready, formation suggesting a planned attack. The element of surprise gave them a devastating advantage. The wagon master shouted urgent commands as the first assault began, instructing the travelers to form a protective circle with their wagons. But chaos erupted immediately. Draft animals panicked, frightened travelers scrambled for cover, and returning fire while maneuvering proved impossible. They managed only a ragged, incomplete circle before the second assault came. This attack was even more devastating. The Comanches breached the defensive perimeter, bringing the violence to close quarters. Significant casualties mounted among the wagon train members, though the attackers suffered some losses as well. Eventually, the Comanche warriors withdrew to the northern rise to regroup. Among the defenders was a man whose name history has not preserved, but whose actions would become infamous. While others fought desperately to protect the group, this man hid between two large trunks in a wagon, paralyzed by fear. Instead of taking up arms, he prayed, consumed by self-preservation while his companions died around him. During the lull between attacks, while the survivors prepared for the final assault, this man made a fateful decision. He cautiously emerged from his hiding place, surveyed his surroundings, and despite direct commands to assist in the defense, he fled southward, away from both attackers and defenders. Finding concealment in a natural buffalo wallow, a depression in the prairie created by buffalo rolling to relieve themselves of parasites, he watched in terror as the Comanches launched their third and final assault. The remaining defenders were systematically eliminated. The attackers killed everyone in the wagon train, scalped the dead, slaughtered the oxen, captured the valuable horses and mules, looted the wagons of anything useful, and finally set fire to the remaining materials. The sole survivor remained hidden, eyes closed in prayer, overwhelming relief washing over him as the Comanche war party finally departed northward, taking their plunder with them. As dawn broke the next morning, the coward faced his new reality. He had survived, but at what cost? Severe thirst now threatened his life as he surveyed his surroundings. The smoking ruins of the wagon train were visible to the north, while endless grass stretched in all other directions. Folk wisdom about buffalo wallows suggested they often contained water. Desperate, he began digging with his bare hands, seeking moisture that might save his life. What he found instead would change everything. As he dug through the soil, he noticed an unusual grainy, pebbly texture different from typical prairie earth. Small objects caught the sunlight, glinting. Cleaning them revealed gold nuggets. Continuing to dig, he discovered more and more nuggets until his pockets were completely filled. Among the gold, he found fragments of rotted leather suggesting someone had intentionally buried this treasure, perhaps planning to return. At 2 feet deep, he finally struck water as well. The buffalo wallow had indeed collected moisture below the surface. This dual discovery provided both immediate survival and potential future security. After slaking his thirst and ensuring no Comanches remained in the area, he abandoned his hiding place and started walking south. The first day of his journey across the open prairie quickly revealed a problem. The gold was incredibly heavy. After walking for approximately an hour, he was forced to create his first cache, digging a shallow hole and depositing some of the nuggets. With no stones available for marking, he twisted prairie grass into distinctive bundles to mark the location. After 2 more hours of southward progress, he created a second cache using the same marking technique. By nightfall, complete exhaustion from hunger, thirst, and the burden of the remaining gold caused him to collapse into involuntary sleep. The second day brought worsening physical conditions. His morning assessment led to the decision to further lighten his gold burden by creating another cache before proceeding. Walking became considerably more difficult than the previous day, suggesting his survival was increasingly threatened. Before sunset, he had created 2 more deposits, marking each location while gradually lightening his physical burden. By the third day, he was approaching a state of complete physical collapse. Fortunately, his navigation led him to a river settlement. In a state of delirium indicating severe dehydration and described as near death, he finally made contact with other humans. Safe in the settlement, the survivor broke down. In tearful confession, he revealed the wagon train tragedy and admitted his personal cowardice during the attack. He attempted to display his remaining gold as evidence of his remarkable story, only to discover he had discarded nearly all of it in his desperation to survive. Despite his admitted cowardice, the community offered medical care, physical restoration, and eventually social acceptance. He found employment with a local merchant and integrated into the community, but the lost gold haunted him. Over the next several years, he made multiple attempts to retrace his journey across the North Texas prairie, searching for the specific cache sites. Others from the community, aware of his story, conducted their own searches across the vast territory. All efforts proved unsuccessful. The twisted grass markers had long since withered away, leaving no trace of where the gold might be buried. As years passed, disappointment from the unsuccessful searches and deteriorating health took their toll. Eventually, the survivor relocated to Wichita Falls, where he lived briefly before passing away, taking the exact locations of his gold caches with him. The fortune he had discovered in that buffalo wallow remained lost on the Texas prairie. What makes this story particularly compelling is its moral complexity. Here was a man whose moral failure, hiding while others fought and died, led directly to his physical survival. Those who chose the honorable path of defense all perished. Then, in a twist of fate, this same man discovered tremendous wealth only to lose it again in his desperate bid for survival. Somewhere in Clay County, North Texas, those gold nuggets remain buried in small caches. The buffalo wallow where they were first discovered has long since been reclaimed by the prairie. The coward's grave lies unmarked and forgotten. But the story endures, a reminder of the complex interplay between courage and survival, fortune and fate that defined life on the American frontier. Somewhere beneath the soil of North Texas lies a fortune in gold coins, untouched for nearly 150 years. 3,000 gold pieces, each bearing the date 1877, stolen in one of the most daring train heists in American history. Their combined value today? Millions. And despite decades of searching, most of this glittering treasure remains hidden, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. This is the story of Sam Bass, the notorious outlaw who buried his ill-gotten wealth somewhere in the Texas wilderness, taking the secret of its location to his grave. It was July 1878. A wounded man slumped against a cottonwood tree, blood seeping through his clothes. Texas Rangers approached cautiously, their guns drawn. The man looked up at them through pain-glazed eyes. This was how the story of Sam Bass ended, bleeding out under a tree on his 27th birthday. But the greater mystery, what happened to his gold, was just beginning. Before he was one of the most wanted men in Texas, Sam Bass was just another orphan trying to survive. Born in Indiana in 1851, young Sam was shuffled between relatives after losing both parents at an early age. Farm life meant long days of back-breaking labor with little reward. By 18, Bass had had enough. The wide-open spaces of Texas called to him, promising adventure and opportunity far from the drudgery of farm work. With little more than the clothes on his back, he headed southwest, arriving in Denton County, Texas in 1870 as a strapping 19-year-old eager to reinvent himself. When Bass first arrived in Texas, there was nothing to suggest he'd become an outlaw. Contemporaries described him as charming, hard-working, and good with horses. He found work on a ranch and seemed to thrive in the cowboy lifestyle, at least initially. But the daily routine of tending cattle soon grew tiresome for a young man with Bass's restless spirit. He found more engaging work with a Denton freight company, hauling goods throughout North Texas. This job proved crucial to his later criminal career, providing intimate knowledge of the region's terrain and back roads, knowledge that would help him evade capture for years. Bass soon developed a passion that would alter the course of his life: horse racing. He acquired a fast mare and began traveling the racing circuit, betting heavily on his own horse. Initially successful, his winnings drew the attention of Joel Collins, a former cowboy acquaintance who approached Bass with a business proposition. Collins convinced Bass to invest his racing winnings in cattle. Together, they assembled a respectable herd and drove it to Dodge City, Kansas, hoping to sell for a handsome profit. Unfortunately, they arrived to find the market had bottomed out. Facing disappointment but not defeat, the pair heard rumors of high beef prices in Deadwood, South Dakota, then the center of a gold mining boom. They drove their herd northward, finally selling their cattle at a decent profit after weeks on the dusty trail. With pockets full of money, Bass and Collins celebrated in true cowboy fashion, drinking and gambling through the night. By morning, they had squandered nearly every cent they'd earned from the cattle sale. This was the turning point. Broke and far from home, Bass and Collins faced a difficult choice: find honest work or try something more lucrative but decidedly illegal. They chose the latter, and within days had assembled a small gang of desperate men. The gang's first targets were stagecoaches around Deadwood. Finding robbery surprisingly easy and profitable, they grew bolder. But it was at Big Springs, Nebraska, where Sam Bass would pull off the heist that would cement his place in outlaw history. On September 18, 1877, Bass and his gang concealed themselves near the Union Pacific Railroad station at Big Springs. As an eastbound train pulled in to take on water, the masked outlaws made their move. What made the Big Springs robbery remarkable wasn't just its execution but what they found. Inside the express car was a payroll trunk containing exactly 3,000 freshly minted $20 gold pieces, all bearing the date 1877. The take was roughly $60,000, equivalent to well over $1 million today. After dividing the loot, the gang split up to confuse pursuers. Bass headed back to Texas with saddlebags heavy with gold coins. Upon his return, he received grim news. Joel Collins had been captured and killed by law enforcement in Nebraska. Even worse, authorities had recovered $25,000 worth of the stolen gold from Collins's possessions. Bass realized the newly minted coins with their distinctive 1877 date would be immediately recognizable if he tried to spend them. He made a fateful decision to bury his share until the heat died down. Bass established a hideout at Cove Hollow, about 30 miles from Denton. It was an isolated area surrounded by dense forest and brush, the perfect place to cache ill-gotten gains. Within days of returning to Texas, Bass organized a new gang and resumed his criminal activities. They targeted stagecoaches initially, but as stage companies added armed guards, the gang shifted to train robberies. In a 6-week period, they robbed 4 trains near Denton. But Bass's luck was running out. He was recognized during one robbery, and soon his image appeared on wanted posters throughout the area. Many believed he took his share of each haul to his Cove Hollow hideout, adding to his growing treasure. The Texas Rangers were gradually closing in. As Bass felt the noose tightening, he abandoned the Denton area and led his band of outlaws south to central Texas. In July 1878, Bass and his remaining gang members made preparations to rob the Williamson County Bank in a settlement called Round Rock. What Bass didn't know was that one of his own men, James Murphy, had betrayed him to the Texas Rangers, who arrived in Round Rock a day ahead of the outlaws. When Bass and 2 companions rode into town, they were met with a hail of gunfire. One gang member was killed instantly. Bass, seriously wounded, managed to climb back onto his horse and escape, though not for long. The next morning, Rangers found him seated under a cottonwood tree, bleeding heavily. They brought him back to Round Rock, where he died on July 21, 1878, his 27th birthday. Bass's death only intensified public fascination with his brief but spectacular criminal career. Most pressing was the question, what happened to all that gold? 3 main theories emerged. Some believed Bass had been a Robin Hood figure who gave most of his money to the poor. Others thought he gambled away everything he stole. But the most enduring theory was that he hid his wealth in a shallow cave near Cove Hollow. Evidence suggests Bass may have split his treasure, catching portions in different locations around North Texas. And remarkably, part of his treasure was actually found, decades after his death. Around the turn of the century, a farmer named Henry Chapman made an astonishing discovery near Springtown in Williamson County. While riding through woods between Clear Fork Creek and Salt Creek, Chapman's mule began acting strangely. When he dismounted to check the animal, he noticed a low mound of dirt just off the trail. Chapman initially thought it was a grave, but closer examination revealed something else entirely. He dug into the mound and discovered a wooden box about the size of a bushel basket, filled to the brim with gold and silver coins. The gold coins all bore the date 1877, confirming their connection to Bass's Big Springs robbery. Chapman's discovery validated the legend of Bass's buried treasure, yet it represented only a fraction of the stolen gold. Except for that single find, none of Bass's distinctive 1877 gold coins have ever appeared in circulation, strong evidence that the remainder of the treasure still lies buried intact somewhere in North Texas. So what might this treasure be worth today? A single $20 gold piece from 1877 in good condition could fetch upwards of $10,000 from collectors. Multiply that by potentially thousands of coins, and we're talking about millions of dollars hiding beneath the Texas soil. The landscape has changed dramatically since Bass's day. Forests have been cleared, creeks have shifted course, and landmarks Bass might have used are long gone. Finding the treasure would require incredible luck or some previously undiscovered map or journal. Yet treasure hunters continue to scour the countryside around Denton County, armed with metal detectors and old maps. Every few years, someone claims to have found a new clue or insists they're close to uncovering Bass's gold. The search is complicated by the fact that Bass operated during a unique moment in American history. The post-Civil War era saw rapid westward expansion and the development of railroads, but law enforcement was still evolving in frontier areas. Vast stretches of wilderness provided ideal hiding places for outlaws and their treasures. The world he knew has vanished. Cove Hollow, once remote and inaccessible, has long since been absorbed by development. Places he would have recognized are now covered by highways, housing developments, and shopping centers. It's entirely possible that Bass's treasure lies beneath someone's backyard or a parking lot, or it could still be out there in some overlooked patch of woods, waiting to be discovered. That's what makes this treasure legend so enduring, the tantalizing possibility that it's still within reach. Sam Bass lived just 27 years, but in that brief span, he went from orphaned farm boy to one of the most notorious outlaws in Texas history. His daring robberies, charismatic personality, and mysterious treasure have secured his place in American folklore. Somewhere in North Texas, 3,000 gold coins may still be waiting. Their 1877 mint dates a silent testament to one of the most audacious heists of the Old West. The man who buried them has been gone for nearly a century and a half, but his legacy and his treasure continue to captivate our imagination. The hunt for Sam Bass's gold goes on, and perhaps someday someone will uncover the final resting place of one of America's most legendary lost treasures. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest Gold story. Check out my large catalog of Southwest videos and playlists on historical tales, legends, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. If you would like a certain image from my videos, tell me in comments and give timestamp. Happy trails. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.